The Women's Fund for Scotland is Scotland's only dedicated fund for women and girls. I'm Susan Morrison, and this is our podcast where we talk to inspiring women improving the lives of those women and girls today. In this episode, we're speaking to Penny from the Green Team project, and we're talking to her about Skylarks and the meaning of the phrase wild wee. Good morning, Penny from Green Team. Looking fabulous.
Good morning, Susan.
Now I can see you on the screen, and I can already tell that you don't sit still, do you, ever?
I am quite a busy person.
Energy all the way. If we could just hook you up to the national grid, all our fuel issues and power issues would be over.
I'd be great. I'd be very happy to help with that.
Yeah, you and me on stationary bikes, cycling to keep Scotland's lights on. I think there's a way ahead for this. But you run the Green Team. So just tell us a little bit about what that is.
Well, the Green Team is a fantastic organisation. So we work with young people from across Edinburgh and the Lothians. And what we're aiming to do is to provide transformational experiences for them through taking part in outdoor activities. So it's all about groups of young people doing something worthwhile outdoors with each other and just having a good time and, you know, exploring, being outside, connecting to nature. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
You know, in times that we live in now, where I'm afraid, probably are a bit guilty of cotton wooling our kids. This is very. I was in the Girl Guides and the Brownies, actually, and we went outside, but I got thrown out of both organisations.
Do you know there is a common link between staff and volunteers that we have in the Green Team and being kicked out of the Guides and the Brownies? What is that? You've got to be feisty to get kicked out of those excellent organisations.
I got thrown out the Brownies because we went for a outside camp thing. Now, I should point out that I came from quite an industrial part of North Lanarkshire, and so what we meant by going outdoors was going into the car park outside the Kirk Hall and having a fire. And I wondered what would happen if you put a tin of beans on the fire without opening it.
Yeah.
Scientific experiment, Penny. Scientific experiment.
Curiosity.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen brown oil with beans dripping off her hat, but it was quite an image. And I was thrown out. I got thrown out the Guides for swearing, I think.
What you're talking about is, you know, real experiences. And, you know, what we are aware of, you know, here in Edinburgh, this fine city, is that there are a lot of young people out there who don't have access to quality green spaces. You know, they don't have good quality parks that don't have rubbish in them. They don't necessarily have their own garden. And, you know, everybody should have, you know, access to nature and be able to hear the birds and the wind through the trees. And we're just trying to provide these experiences to young people that, you know, make them feel good to be outside. You know, the outside is just such a vibrant place. There's just so much going on. And I know your tin of beans example is a really good one, but you can't really damage anything when you're outside. I mean, you can inappropriately cut down the wrong tree or branch or something, but you know, there's all that space for kids to just roam about and be themselves and, you know, lose all those inhibitions. Like, it's just such a brilliant space for young people.
I mean, I'm loving your enthusiasm for the outside world, but I'm going to have to be absolutely brutally honest with you and tell you that I prefer the countryside outside the windows of my car. But I'm fond of a park. Don't get me wrong. Yes. I love a bandstand. I'm there. But I like this idea that kids are being allowed to run about. I love also your idea of inappropriately cutting down a tree.
Does happen, unfortunately.
Okay, let's not go there. But I'm talking to you today about a project that you're running within Green Team, Skylarks.
Yes.
What a fantastic name. What is that?
Oh gosh, can I tell you the history of it? So it runs very much almost in alignment with the Women's Fund, because we have had several grants from the Women's Fund over the years. And probably when we first launched what is our girls only program, which is now called Skylarks, but used to be called Green Angels. I'll come back to that. It was just, you know, fantastic support for what we thought was a really important area of work that was kind of missing. So more than 10 years ago, we became really aware that there were girls, particularly from Black and minority ethnic communities, from faith communities, who were not getting the opportunity to go outside and do all the fun things that we felt were really important for young people. And the only way that they were able to do that was to stay in a single sex group. So we created a program which was then called Green Angels, where groups of girls could go out and do everything that the boys and the girls did on our other programs, but in a kind of safer space. So it became a very nurturing space. It became very much about the young people rather than the putting something back into the countryside, which is something that is a component of everything we do. But it just allowed that space for girls to come together. And you know how girls and women like to chat. There was a lot of that as well. Just people talking about their experiences, feeling safe to share things. And the program opened up, you know, beyond just concentrating on girls from faith communities to just any girls who were feeling that they would thrive better in the company of other girls, rather than getting into competition with the boys to see who could, you know, light the biggest fire, or, you know, because we do use tools and, you know, other equipment, and girls can use those just as well as boys. It's just there is a thing where, you know, girls and women sometimes stand back and let the boys get on with it. So that's what we were trying to create. And it has, as a program, it has thrived for decades now, often with the support of the Women's Fund. And the name change came around just a couple of years ago, because we were like, Green Angels, you know, is that just a bit, are we just being too good? Are we being good girls? And we asked the young women who were participating in the program at the time to help us choose a new name, and that Skylarks is what they came up with. And it's beautiful.
Oh, I love that name, Skylarks. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's almost like, and weirdly enough, I don't like the book at all, Swallows and Amazons, but there's the same energy behind it. You know, that they're just, and also the lovely image in my head of just girls enjoying themselves, skylarking.
It has multiple layers of meaning, which is why I think it's an absolutely perfect word. And yes, and that's what they're doing. They are guddling around in streams and enjoying themselves and watching the birds and being free and soaring and being themselves. And yeah, fantastic. Suits the program very, very well, that name.
And it's a lovely image now of these young women and these girls running through the forest, training themselves up. Gosh, you got like, they could get quite scary out there, actually.
Susan, you would have been a great Skylark, I tell you. Could have been the making of you.
Yeah, I would have been a better Skylark than a girl guide. I think I was already getting mildly anti-authority, and the uniform was beginning to annoy me slightly. How do the girls come to you? Do they chat amongst themselves, or do you go out and recruit members for the Skylarks?
That is a very good question. It can be difficult to let the girls that we know would benefit from participating in the program know that we're doing it. So we've got two kind of strands, I suppose, to our Skylarks program. One is a very open Saturday once a month, where, you know, any girls from across the city can book on and come out, and we've got a very faithful group of young women who come regularly to participate in that. But because we know that sometimes there are barriers to participation, we actually now also run Skylarks programs in high schools in Edinburgh. So, for example, we would go to a high school and we would offer them an 8-week program where one day a week we are taking girls that they have identified as being suitable for the program. We come and collect them from school. We go out to the woods or the beach or some green space, and we do all the wonderful fun things we do. We put something back, we do practical work, we learn, we explore, we discover, and then we take them back to school at the end of the day. And we tend to work with early high school years, so S1 and S2, because taking, you know, any young person out of school for a day a week can disrupt their education. But sometimes these girls are not even attending school. There's a very high number of young people for whom, getting back into the way of going to school after COVID has just not happened for them. And they're still on the school roll, but, for whatever reason, it could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be a whole host of things. They're just not really attending school, but they come out on our program. So the schools are fantastic at identifying the girls who would be most suitable for our program. And it's a wide range of things. So it is a kind of referral, I suppose. So, it may be we've had Skylarks girls who have had a recent family bereavement, obviously quite young to lose a parent or a significant family member. Some of them are young carers, so they've already, at a very young age, they are doing, taking on responsibilities that, most children wouldn't have to do. Some young people are actually in care. So if you're care experienced, it may be that you are living in a children's home, but you are attached to a school. And so we get girls like that coming out. But sometimes it's just kind of social isolation, that inability to connect with other people and just to feel, you might have a lot of people around you, but you're actually just not managing to make friends. And we just set up a space where people can talk and get to know each other and, bring the person that they want to be rather than the person perhaps they're pretending to be in a school context.
How tiring must that be for a young person to keep a mask on like that? I don't mean it's a physical mask, but to constantly being hiding themselves, and then you take them out into the green space and say let rip, and all of a sudden they can just blossom. I mean, do you see that happening?
Absolutely. And those are the transformations that I think we're so keen to see. And sometimes we're just sort of giving a forum for these magical things to happen. We teach children to light fires. I mean, you explored that yourself. We put matches in the hands of teenagers and, we support them to responsibly light small fires or outdoor kettles or something like that. And there's a massive kind of confidence raising and, increased motivation, or just sometimes that knowing that they've met somebody else from their school, might not be in their year, may not be in their class, but they've got somebody else in school that they've connected with who's an ally. And when they pass them in the corridor, they can say hi, or they can find them at lunchtime. And it's just giving them the space to explore themselves, and it's just to bring down that mask that they adopt when they go into school.
You've said that the Green Team has been running for some time with support from Women's Fund for Scotland. So does that mean that you've seen young women, girls coming out of the end of the process?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, we had an email recently from a young woman who took part in our Skylarks program quite a few years ago. And she was quite a quiet girl, but she really thrived in the kind of all-female atmosphere. And then she got to be 17 and 18, and we kind of lost track of her. And she just took it upon herself to get in touch and tell us that she'd been working at the UK Centre for Hydrology and Ecology, and she was just about to start a part-time degree in environmental studies, and that she attributed this interest in conservation and the environment to her time with us at the Green Team. And she was saying thank you. And I just think that's absolutely wonderful. We often lose track of young people as they leave school or go into work or higher education. We don't always know their stories, but every now and then they get back in touch with us. And we recently had a mother get in touch with us to give us a little bit of feedback on her daughter, who was involved in one of our original Green Angels programs. And she was saying that since her daughter had been involved, she's had an autism diagnosis. And what her daughter had been struggling with at the time was just, making friends, being sociable. She didn't even understand the struggles that she was having were in a large part attributed to her autism. And again, it was a thank you. It was, you helped my daughter through some of the trickiest times of her teenage life. She's now buying a flat in Edinburgh. She's studying nursing, and we just wanted to let you know that she's fine. And that was wonderful.
Oh, what success stories. That's absolutely. But even in smaller terms of success, even just seeing girls becoming a little more assertive or having a bit more confidence. You must see that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can happen just over a matter of weeks. And I think probably we attribute this to small group sizes. So, in a class of 28 or 30 that you might have in a high school, young people get lost, but we take them in, groups of 6 or 8, and we have high adult ratios, and we can work more one-to-one with them and support them as individuals, but in a group setting. But yeah, we see confidence, we see motivation. We like it when they get a little bit mouthy, and they can speak in front of other people in a group, or they can, they start looking after other people or helping to carry group kit or something. There's lots of little transformations, or even just awakening, curiosity about the environment, or a butterfly or a slug, or, not minding a spider. There's so many transformations that can happen in a really short space of time.
Do you know, I was with you there right up until you used the S word, but as an arachnophobe, I have very stern views about spiders. If you're outside my house, you live. You come into my house, you die. That's the rule. So you've been going for such a long time that do you find that older members of the group sort of feed into what your plans are now?
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have a youth panel. So we have young people from across all our different programs contributing to discussions, and where's the green team going, that they get to sort of participate in that. So we have quite a few Skylarks involved in that. But I think on every session, we like to get their feedback. We like to know what it is that they're interested in doing. I think that whole youth voice is just, it's part of empowering them to determine their own futures. So on Skylarks programs, I mean, less so, I think, with the school one, where we kind of have to start with a plan. But certainly on the Saturday programs, we say to them, what are you interested in doing? Where would you like to go? Where does your curiosity lie? And then, if they say, oh, we're really interested in woodlands or birds or spiders, dare I say, we'll create something around that and just follow their curiosity. And again, that's something, schools that are not able to adapt in that way to an individual's curiosity, but it's, it can sometimes be life-changing and take you down a career route that you didn't know you were going to go down.
Oh, it's amazing what can trigger things off in the young human brain that it suddenly can take you down an entire lifetime of obsession, interest, or even careers. So
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely amazing that you're doing this. But you said that because you've been running for a while, and you mentioned COVID earlier, are you finding young women, girls coming to you with different issues today that you started out with?
I think COVID has exacerbated some of the issues. I mean, I would say even before COVID, it was the rise of the smartphone, probably, and particularly girls interacting through social media rather than in person, out, together, having a shared experience that, they're both right beside each other participating in. So I think the kind of isolation and the feeling that, you might have lots of friends through your phone, but actually you don't really spend time with anybody, I think that has got worse in a way. I think COVID, it just hit people in so many different ways. I think there has been worse school attendance and maybe young people not getting involved in things as much. So I think, probably that anxiety and social isolation, has increased, and that is something that, we are seeing. And I think, what we're also seeing is a lot more girls with an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis, that realization, which is a good thing to have, that actually, life is a little bit of a struggle. And these would have been the same girls, that we maybe interacted with before, but they were not aware so much that, this was something that they struggled with. So, we'd like to provide an environment where, everybody is included, and, whatever your preference and your neurodivergence, we will accommodate you and, absolutely work with you.
I was really shocked recently. I was at a presentation, it was a university presentation, and it was showing you 1950s and 60s attitudes towards autism. And the textbooks, they showed you slides of 5 different textbooks, and they said, every single one of them said, with variations on the theme, autism, which mainly affects boys, autism, which is, and it was like there was no recognition in the 50s or 60s or even 70s that this was an issue for girls. It's like they never even looked for it, or girls were really good at masking it, and so that they weren't being identified so readily. And being a young woman today, with the rise of the smartphone and body image, I don't know how it was bad enough for me with Jackie comic. But do you find that, just to turn to the Women's Fund for Scotland for a moment, not just the funding, but there's quite a lot else that goes on with it, networking opportunities and support. Do you find that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just prioritizing women's spaces and, places, forum where women can actually come together and talk and support. It's been absolutely fantastic. There's no other fund like it really that does that and provides that level of support, that and the targeted support as well.
And amongst the charity sector, of course, it's got name recognition when you've got that on your banners, and it's good to see it, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
It seems to me that the world is getting, I don't want to sound bleak, but it seems to me that the world is getting more challenging for girls. Would you say that's true?
A lot has changed for the better in terms of what girls and women, the careers that they can go into. There is still some work to be done, but there's been a huge movement of things are not only boy only careers. I think there's a lot more sisterhood maybe than there used to be, like women supporting women, girls supporting girls. I don't think I see it as so bleak. There are still, many of the same challenges, but I think a lot has changed for the better. And I would hope that the issues around being a woman in this world are getting better rather than worse. However, the world has a lot of problems at the moment, and it would not be a surprise if any young person was carrying quite a lot of that anxiety about climate and everything else on their young shoulders. There's a lot to worry about, I think, in this world.
Yeah, I know, but now that you're producing what looks like generations of great female leaders, I'm starting to feel a lot less bleak.
Good.
But not only that, Penny, if you've got all these lovely young women who are all being trained up to light fires and roast spiders and things like that, come the inevitable apocalypse, it's fine. They'll be able to look after us.
Exactly. And actually, we don't roast spiders. We look after them. But yes, those survival skills, the resilience to spend time outside. No outside toilet. We're a real enthusiast for the wild wee. So breaking down that the barriers of being able to sustain a day in the outdoors, whatever the weather. It might get cold, it might get wet, you might have to sit on the ground, there's going to be spiders, you might have to make a fire to boil your own hot water. That is resilience for life. And if you've got those skills, you're going to cope with other challenges.
Can I just say, you have just introduced me to a term I never thought I'd hear, which I'm now, the wild wee.
Yep.
Which I'm now going to use at some time.
Love it. I think you are a skylark in the making, Susan.
Thank you for joining us and listening to this story. I hope you've been inspired. And if you would like to support the Women's Fund for Scotland, search for us online and listen out for our other podcast episodes.